Now, are you a good judge of character? Perhaps you think you can judge someone's personality by just looking at their face. Well, originating in China 3,000 years ago, face reading has been adopted by a number of the top US Fortune 500 companies such as Nike, CNN and Procter & Gamble for recruitment and HR purposes.
Now, joining us this morning is Wicklow man Joseph Maguire, who has studied physiognomy or face reading for decades, and he believes that he can read a person's personality just by looking at a person's face. Good morning, Joseph. You're very welcome.
Welcome indeed.
Now, call me cynical or just a little sceptical, but I would have said, an amusing party trick. But then, when you read into it, you go, well, hang on a second, the Chinese have been doing this for thousands of years.
They have indeed.
So there must be a bit more to it than an amusing party trick.
There's a lot more to it, and as you can see, various Fortune 500 companies are using it. Some of the CEOs have trained in it themselves. It's used in jury selection on a very wide basis.
This is how you make your living now. Is this consulting for people like that?
This is what I do.
Do we use face reading on a subconscious level every day? I mean, when we look at someone, are we already processing what we think about what their face is telling us without even us realising it?
We are, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, we're making judgments now, whether they're accurate or not.
That's what I'm saying. Are we equipped on a basic level with the skills to read someone's face, or do you need to learn it?
As Mark said, we tend to make judgments. We tend to make very spontaneous judgments, and we can make those judgments in something like 1/100th of a second. We register faces that quickly. And the problem there is that we're talking about bias, whether that be a positive bias or a negative bias. As a face reader, I have to get beyond that.
OK, well, let's do some practical examples. And ladies first, so...
Let's look at my mug. You're bored looking at it. They could have chosen someone else.
Now, we have it up there. How easy is it for you? I mean, I don't know whether you looked at the television or whether you just got a photograph or whatever. But
yeah,
I mean,
do you need to see people in the flesh?
There is a difference between seeing people in the flesh, because a photograph is a snapshot in time, and it could be that there was something in particular going on for them at the time. But you're looking at a big. No pun intended. You're looking at a bigger picture when you're looking at a photograph.
So what are you looking at?
You're looking at the basic face shape. You're looking at the size and position of the facial organs in relation to each other. So whether
that's
somebody's
ears, forehead, eyes, nose, mouth and chin.
Mouth and chin. So whether somebody has a vertical forehead, a rounded forehead, big nose, big eyes, small eyes, all those things are very, very relevant.
And what if somebody says, well, but surely that's an accident of birth?
No, because these things change as we go through life.
OK.
So do we get the face we deserve, Joseph?
Well, you're doing OK, aren't you?
Let's have a look. Have a look at mine and tell me what you know about me. Go on. So.
Right. OK, there's a number of things that stand out. Number one, your hairline comes in a little bit on the side here, on the side of the forehead, which tells me that you have a very strong work ethic, particularly in your public life. And that's heavily influenced by your mother especially. That
would be true.
That's added to by your nicely full nose, if I can put it that way, which tells me...
My big conch. It's OK, I'll say it.
All right.
I'm at one with it.
When your nose is full like that, it tells me that you have a very strong drive. So anything you put your mind to, you're really going to go for it. You will certainly not be a shrinking violet. If you have something to say, you will say it.
That is also true, as poor Mark knows far too well.
You're right. Yeah, that's all very positive. What I notice, because we have breakdowns of other people as well, is that they're all very positive. I'd be inclined to be a bit more believing of it if there was negative stuff in it. So at what stage... I mean, you don't... Look, somebody comes to you
always looking for the negative.
Well, no, it isn't that, but I think that it has to be balanced by that to give a more honest, rounded picture.
Of course, yeah.
So they're going to put mine up now, so take your best shot.
Only you would say, tell me the negative stuff about me.
Well, that's the male approach.
Is it the male approach?
That's the difference between
men. Out of the way.
Go on, so
absolutely,
what do you see in Mark's face?
But the first thing is, I suppose a lot of what I do is, a lot of what I have done is public. Then there's obviously the private stuff for clients, etc. But when I do the public stuff, I'm very conscious that I am showing the positives. I'm wary of getting into any possible litigious circumstances or anything like that. And I don't want to put people on the spot in a really uncomfortable way.
But I mean, for example, you say, and you did it with your father, that you can, I won't say predict, but that you can see medical problems there that maybe other people haven't spotted. So I mean, if you saw me and you thought I was a heart attack about to happen, would it not almost be incumbent on you to say, look, I'm not a medical expert, but I think you really need to...
Absolutely.
And do you do that?
I have done, absolutely. If people come to me with what I perceive to be a serious issue, whether it be present or whether I see it coming down the road, I would absolutely tell them, yes, I'm not going to necessarily say you've got cancer or put a name on it like that, but what I would say is there's an area here I'd be concerned about. You really should see your doctor.
OK, give us the main thing that leapt out from Mark's face.
OK, there's several things. Okay, being direct about it, one of the things that's very evident on your own face is there's lines coming below the eyes here across the upper cheek.
My bags, as my wife calls them.
That's because he's been doing this job for 12 years.
This isn't actually directly below the eyes. This is off to the side of the cheek.
Yeah.
And these are what are called courage lines. Now, I know you've had serious heartbreak in your life. So this means you've had to face, whether you've wanted to or not, you've had to face serious challenges. You actually share those lines, believe it or not, with Martin Luther King. There's good company to be.
Well, I don't think that anybody gets to my age without having dealt with a few demons and a few
Courage lines. That's what I'm going to call my wrinkles from now on.
That's the key thing. The lines will show up. How the lines show up, how big they are, how long they are, how complete they are, will indicate how completely you've dealt with the issue. So it's not that you won't have lines. The lines tell you how you've dealt with the issues.
What about my dimple? My wife says,
cleft.
my wife says
cleft.
he has a chin like a bum. What does that mean?
Okay, it's actually quite positive. And again, I'm not
stubborn, strong-willed.
Strong-willed, absolutely. But when you have a cleft like that, it indicates that you're a very resilient character, physically, mentally. So even if you got ill, you would bounce. You have the potential to bounce
the rubber
back
ball.
But you also
bounce back ability, as I think a football manager called it.
Joseph, can we ask you to have a look at a lady who is much in the limelight at the moment? It is Lucinda Creighton.
Absolutely.
What does looking at Lucinda's face? What does that tell you about her?
It tells me that she's a very serious individual, first and foremost. If you look at her forehead is essentially vertical, and when you see a vertical forehead, that goes with somebody who's rational, who's very much into logic. And what other things you see there are her nose is long, but it's also relatively thin, which tells you that she can be thin-skinned.
Okay.
She can be quite sensitive to criticism.
Wow.
Her mouth is quite wide, so she's going to. Anything she has to say, she will say it, and she might say a lot more than she actually needs to on occasion.
What about the definition on the lips? Because I've only just actually noticed now they are very well defined.
They are very well defined. When you see that kind of almost rosebud shape, it tells you that this person has quite a sensual nature in private.
Oh.
But if you look at the lower lip, there's a slight puffiness beneath the lower lip, so it tells you she's holding a lot of stress in her intestinal area, whether that be physical stress, emotional stress. This is where her stress sits.
It's certainly a stressful time for her at the moment.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, can I ask you, Joseph, are any companies in Ireland using this when it comes to making a consideration on whether they employ somebody or not?
Yeah, I do have a number of clients, and now I do
Isn't that
operate.
interesting? I know you can't reveal who they are,
Yes.
but that is fascinating.
Yes, it is relatively new because it's only in the past couple of years that I've been doing this in the business context. So I'm building it slowly and steadily, but people are most definitely using it.
OK,
yes.
can we look at a man who is beloved across the country, the fabulous Brian O'Driscoll?
Absolutely. Our hero scorned,
You
yes.
better say all good things here, Joseph, I'm telling you.
Well, I just have to correct Mark on one thing. I'm actually a Dublin man translocated to Wicklow. And,
right, OK.
And Bod is a fellow Northsider, so I have to say lots of nice
You from
things.
Clontarf originally? Are you Clontarf man?
I'm originally from Marino, but I lived in Raheny for many years.
Right,
so
OK.
Well, what can you tell us
Now,
about his face that we don't know about him?
OK, let me see. There's one, well, he's very private.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that he's in the public arena, when you see the lower eyelids being very straight, that tells you that this is somebody who's emotionally wary, particularly in public. The right side of the person's face reflects their public persona, the left side is the private persona.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
So what you see is with Brian, generally speaking, the lower eyelids are very straight. So even though he's very affable in public, he is very guarded,
and actually, if you think about it, we know very little about Brian privately.
Yeah, and that's the way he wants it. That's the way he wants it.
Of course it is.
Joseph, this is fascinating. We could spend the rest of the programme doing this.
How do people contact you if they want to avail of your services?
They can get my mobile number, which is 087-246-1853, or email joseph@facereadingireland.com.
OK, we have the website details up there, Joseph.
That's what people are going to be talking about from this morning's programme now.
I know, face reading. I want to know which companies are using it. How interesting. OK, Joseph, thank you very much. Pleasure.
Pleasure
Now,
to meet you.
after the break, we are going to be paying a visit to the lovely County Kilkenny, where Damien O'Neill and his family learned how to kayak. Stay tuned to see how they got on.